And how much of the water receded, and how much further does it have to go, Rick?
Well, Bill, I'll give you an example. Right here where I'm standing was underwater yesterday, last night. You can take a look behind me. You can see the stuff that's sitting there on the roadway. That's where it has gone so far today. And while the waters have receded a bit, it has rained here off and on all day, complicating efforts to figure out just how much damage has been done here.
On July 2nd, 2007, Coffeyville, Kansas experienced flooding due to a levee breach, primarily caused by prolonged record rain levels which affected the town of 11,400. Residents were swamped with waters that rose more than 30 feet in some areas.
A lot of people didn't really care that it was coming, or they didn't believe that it was coming, and they'd be fine. And that that didn't really help their case.
It was the summer before my sophomore year of high school. I have lived in Coffeyville all my life. Most of my family is from here. And most of my family are either work for the local school district or farm in the local area.
My grandma, she actually lived right next to the levee. The river was in her backyard. She lost her house since like the 60s.
The flood doesn't get talked about as much anymore because I think this community has learned to deal with it. And I don't know about overcoming it. A lot of people's lives were changed beyond repair, and they no longer live here anymore. They had to move. Like, their homes were destroyed. Everything they owned was gone. And I was lucky enough to live at a part of town that was not in the floodplain. But and so my personal issue with the flood kind of was over after a year. But for some people, their lives are changed forever. And so for the community that is still here, I think it's a point that Coffeyville is still around. It brought people together, definitely.
And to this day, you can actually go to Coffeyville and you can see the flood line on all these buildings that did still stand. There are some, like there's an auto shop that you can see the tropical snow over there. It also had a flood line, but the guy painted over it.
The fallout from the flood really impacted the start of school. We as a high school didn't know how many people we were going to have in the high school, because some of the kids on the teams were sleeping on other friends' couches, and they didn't know if they were going to be where they were going to live that upcoming school year. They didn't know if they'd even be able to be on the team.
There was this big pull to help everybody who was affected, to help those that were in need or needed perishable goods. Like, there were canned food drives, all that jazz.
My dad said, "Hey, we're not making any money this year. Just that's it, you know." And it was whenever the flood hit. It was kind of spring or in the middle of summer. So and you just have to kind of do the thing of, okay, like, just bear it and figure it out as a family. But it was something where the entire Mitchell family was just going to be looking at a skinny year.
Another flood definitely could happen, but it might not have the same effect that it did last time. There are way fewer people on the side of town where it would flood, on the Verdigris River.
During the flood, when they were rescuing people, they went in to save a lot, and they found all these cats that had, that the evacuees couldn't get a hold of. There were just a
bunch of like a whole cat colony in Save-A-Lot, including my grandma's cat.
To make matters worse, a local oil refinery was also submerged underwater, causing an estimated 40,000 gallons of crude oil to spill into the city streets, contaminating the floodwaters, sweeping dark, foul-smelling water into homes and businesses, forcing the evacuation of some 2,500 residents from their homes. Some residents had to even be rescued by boat.
Community member is, because I mean, water is water. It has no prejudice, it has no opinion, it just is going to wipe out whatever it can get a hold of. And when you mix in that with the oil from the local refinery, it's going to stick around for a while. And so I know that every farming family looked out for each other. And they were already close, but it brought people even closer together. Disaster does that. Human beings are spectacular at overcoming disaster together, no matter what it is.
I've been here 45 years.
Leahold spent the day helping firefighters assess the damage from water level, using his boat to tour the flood zone.
I never thought I'd drive a boat where I drive a vehicle at every day for my business here in town.
For Fire Captain James Grimmett, this trip is heartbreaking.
I've never seen anything like this. Never seen this much water in Coffeyville.
Because of the refinery, the land was soiled. It was worthless. All the houses were uninhabitable. You couldn't live there anymore because it was toxic.
The refinery played a big part in the lasting damage of that part of town of Coffeyville. They could have done something if it were something that people were expected to deal with, but to be honest, my view is that they got something. They did make a mistake, but most people in that situation probably would have made the exact same mistake. Of course, when a flood hits, the damage really doesn't. The economic damage doesn't take place until afterwards. So you're looking at it for weeks upon weeks upon weeks of just being stuck in that situation.
There were 6,307 homes damaged, 53 businesses damaged, 150 miles of paved roads damaged, 400 miles of gravel roads damaged, 3 county bridges damaged, 3 wastewater treatment plants damaged, and 2 water treatment plants damaged, serving the city and rural residents.
This is different. This is something that is going to shape the stories I tell for the rest of my life.
There was Coffeyville prior to 2007, and then there was Coffeyville after the flood. And when half the town is wiped out, nobody can live there anymore, I don't think it's the same.
You used to be able to drive and see lots and lots of houses on the east side of town, and those are all gone, basically. Growing up out in the country, our view was, this is bad. Put it on the list of other bad things that have happened. Feel sad, feel disappointed, and feel and share that with your family and come together, because then you can find happiness afterwards.
My grandma's house that was right next to the river, it got, I think, a foot above the second story.
Every year there is a focus on reclaiming what the flood took, and that's something that the entire town, the entire county really thrives in. There's a lot to be proud of from Coffeyville. You just have to look for it a little bit, because it is hidden behind a flood that took away homes and lives and futures. The flood shows that, the flood of Coffeyville and the flood of '07 shows that disaster can come in all forms. The flood was at the time, was a once-in-a-lifetime disaster that the people who are now living through it and having kids are going through disasters on a regular basis. And so that kind of shapes our fortitude and mentality to deal with the next one. You don't know how well you'll respond to a disaster until you've already defeated the last one. And for Coffeyville, they had as big of a haymaker as that could be thrown at them, and they're still here.
The severe flooding took 13 lives.